Today, we're going to dive into a simple but honestly a really powerful idea that can change how you plan just about everything in your life. We're talking about building in some room for error. So let me just ask you this right off the bat. What do you think is the single most important part of making a plan? Is it having a clear goal, the step-by-step process? It's actually something most of us don't even think about. And the answer is right here. The most crucial part of any good plan is to plan on your plan not going according to plan. I know, it sounds a little weird, right? But it's all about building a buffer for the chaos life inevitably throws at us. The thing is, our brains are kind of wired to ignore this, and that leads us right into a really common trap. And that is the certainty trap. It's this little glitch in our thinking, where we tend to believe the world is way more predictable than it actually is, especially when it comes to our own lives. I mean, think about it like this. You budget for a home renovation, and you're pretty confident you're going to stick to it. But then you see your neighbor start a project, and you just know, you're absolutely sure, they're going to blow their budget by 50%. See the disconnect? It's not just being optimistic. It's a real failure of imagination for ourselves. This bias even affects who we listen to. We just love those pundits who speak with absolute, unshakable confidence. We forget that the real world doesn't work in certainties, it works in probabilities. And that attraction to false confidence can be pretty dangerous. But there are some people who have totally mastered a different way of thinking. Which brings us to a kinda surprising source of wisdom. A gambler's humility. It's a mindset that just completely flips that whole certainty trap upside down. Okay, so picture a professional blackjack player in Las Vegas, a card counter. These guys aren't betting on sure things. Not at all. They're playing a long game of subtle odds, and they go in fully expecting that they can and will lose a lot of individual hands. And just look at how slim their advantage is. We're talking about a tiny 2% edge. That means the house, the casino, is still winning 49% of the time. So the key to their whole strategy isn't being right all the time. It's having a big enough pile of cash to survive the inevitable losing streaks. Their entire system is built on the humble idea that they are going to be wrong and wrong often. And here you can really see the difference. The pundit needs to appear right with every single forecast to keep their job. But the card counter, they just need to survive. They're playing the odds, building endurance, and just making sure they're still at the table when that small edge finally pays off. So here's the big takeaway from that. We should stop trying to perfectly predict the future. It's impossible. Instead, we should focus all our energy on building the endurance to survive whatever the future might decide to throw at us. You know, the legendary investor Benjamin Graham put it perfectly. The whole point of having a margin of safety, which is just another name for room for error, isn't just about being cautious. It's to make it so you don't need a perfect forecast to come out ahead. So what exactly is this room for error? Well, it's pretty simple. It's just the gap between what you hope will happen in your neat little plan and the huge range of things that could actually happen in the real world. That gap isn't a weakness. It's the source of your strength. It's what gives you endurance. It's what keeps you in the game. Let's look at a real-world example. Back in the early days of Microsoft, Bill Gates had this hardcore rule. The company had to have enough cash in the bank to survive for 1 full year with zero, and I mean zero, revenue coming in. Now that is an extreme room for error. And then you've got Warren Buffett, who makes it even more personal. He's famous for saying that he refuses to trade even one night's sleep for any chance of extra profit. And that's such a great reminder that endurance isn't just about the money, it's about your mental and emotional health too. Because look, a spreadsheet can tell you if you can technically survive a 30% drop in the market, but what it can't model is the gut-wrenching stress and panic in the middle of the night that might make you sell everything at the absolute worst possible moment. Your emotional endurance is just as important as your financial endurance. So how do you actually build this buffer? Here's a super simple rule of thumb you can use. When you're planning your investments, just take whatever the historical average return is and chop off a third. Just assume you'll do 33% worse. That one little mental adjustment instantly creates a margin of safety. It's a cushion that really helps you sleep at night. And all of this is building up to what is probably the most important point of all, preparing for the kind of risks that you can't even imagine. Now, this is a really critical distinction. Having room for error doesn't mean you stop taking risks. Not at all. It means you can and you should take smart risks, but you have to be absolutely allergic to any risk that has even a tiny chance of wiping you out completely. And the number one enemy of this idea is leverage, borrowing money. Leverage is so dangerous because it takes a normal survivable risk and turns it into a potentially catastrophic one. It's like playing Russian roulette. Even if there's a 95% chance you'll be fine, that 5% chance of ruin is completely unacceptable because if it hits, you don't get to play again. To really see why this matters, let me tell you this quick story from World War II. Near Stalingrad, the Germans had this super advanced state-of-the-art tank unit that they were holding in reserve, just waiting for the perfect moment to deploy them in a battle. So the soldiers are ready, the tanks are supposed to be the best in the world, the call to advance finally comes, and nothing. A complete and utter failure. Almost none of the tanks could even start their engines. So what could possibly take down an entire elite tank division? Was it an enemy attack? Sabotage? Some huge design flaw? Nope. The real reason was something that no military planner in the world would have thought of. Field mice. I'm not kidding. While those powerful tanks were just sitting there waiting, mice had crawled inside and chewed through the insulation on the electrical wires. It sounds absurd, but it's the perfect illustration that the biggest risks are almost always the ones you could never ever possibly see coming. And that really brings us to the final, most crucial insight here. You don't build room for error for the risks you can predict. You build it for the field mice. You save and create a buffer not for a specific reason you can write down in a spreadsheet, but for the simple, undeniable fact that our world is way more unpredictable than we like to admit. And planning for that simple fact, that is the most important part of any plan.